Hi, welcome back, guys. So, today we're gonna actually connect to a database, and before we do anything, I'm actually gonna delete a bunch of stuff from here. If you want to create a new project, you would probably follow the same steps as the seed that you're gonna use is probably gonna be the same seed, the Hello World seed. So, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean out all the routes that we have. Um, yeah, let's just get rid of everything. And actually, I want to keep this. And I'm going to rename the home controller so it's just going to be called the app controller. No, I actually have to go into the directory first. Alright, so controllers.appcontroller. And then I'm just going to call it index. And that's just going to be our initial index route. And then after that, I'm going to delete the views. So where am I in? Okay, so rm-rf app views. And then I'm also going to rename the home controller, so app home controller. Alright, I have to go into controllers first. Home controller.scala, and I'm going to rename that to app controller.scala. Alright. Ah, damn it, I moved in the wrong place. Alright, well, I'm just going to drag and drop like a normal person. And in here, I'm going to just delete all this. Actually, I want to keep that space. Yeah, that'll be fine. I'm going to keep all those imports as well. And then we're going to delete that because we don't need those comments. We'll just put this as AppWorks. And then, let's see. Let's get rid of that. And I believe that's all we need. So we'll save. And then with that running, we'll just run our app. So sbt run. And while it's running, let's make a new window. And the database today that we're going to use is Mongo. So I'm just going to make sure that our Mongo database is running. You would typically run mongod if it's not running. But I know that on my Linux machine that it's always running and it never stops. So I'm just going to check if that's still the case. And it is. Alright, how do I get out of the shell again? Control C, right? Yeah, it is. Cool. And yeah. So the first thing we're going to want to do is actually check if our app works. So let's do that first. So, I'm in the wrong. Alright. We have a bunch of errors. Compiling file compilation error is because type app controller is not a member of package controllers. App controller. And let's try that again. We should get a string if all goes well. Yep, and there it is, app works. Let me see if I can make this bigger. That's not exactly what it wants. I want this text bigger. Whatever. I hope you guys can see. But, yep. So, what was I doing? Oh, right. So the first thing we want to do is go into our build SBT, and we're gonna add another library here. And I happen to know which library we need, but if you need to look for a library, then you can always go to scaladex. Wait, hold on, it's called index.scala-lang.org, but it's the Scala library index. And we're gonna search for Mongo. And I happen to know that I'm gonna be using, I think it's this one, Play Reactive Mongo. Is that right? No, that's not right. Alright, I'm just gonna type the exact library. So play to reactive Mongo. There you go. It's this one. And once you're here, you can just copy and paste one of these. You typically want to make sure that you're using the correct version of the library. And you could hover over here to get the version. And this version is 0.12.4. And I'm going to go with that. My example is using a different version, so I hope everything goes well. So new SPT, yes, import build, but go away. What else do we need? Oh, and then finally at this bottom thing, it says add additional packages for the routes configuration. We're actually going to do that. So this is going to be play.spt.routes.routekeys. And we're going to just add, alright, let me see if I can, play.modules.reactive.mongo.path bindables dot underscore. I'm also gonna close this. And don't worry, that's just the VS Code's compiler, so that we'll get IntelliSense. So we'll save that. Anyways, this line of code right here just basically means that we're able to use the BISON type, the binary JSON type in our routes file. And yeah, I think we need one more step. So you're gonna go into, you can go into your application configuration, application.configuration, and we're gonna add the reactive Mongo module. And don't remember the exact syntax for that, so let's double check. So it's gonna be play modules.enabled, and we're gonna enable play.modules reactive mongo.reactive mongo module, and then we're also gonna add our MongoDB URI. And if you don't know, this is basically the URL to our Mongo database. And I'm just going to do MongoDB localhost. Port is going to be 27017. And that's the default port for Mongo databases. And the database, I'm going to call it Scala REST. And if you don't know, the convenient thing about MongoDB is that it'll just automatically create a database for you when you try to connect to it. So we don't have to do anything in the bash shell. All right, now hopefully we don't have to restart our server, and I'm just gonna see if it still compiles correctly. If it doesn't, then we'll have to restart our server, but that's pretty easy. Cannot load module, yeah, thought so. All right, kill the server, restart the server. So just run sbt run again. And once that's done, we could close our configuration directory and we don't have to look at it ever again. Alright, our build.sbt should also be perfectly correct as well. Error in expression plus equals. Is it not supposed to be plus equals? Play.sbt.routes.route keys. Did I forget? Does it need routes imports? Let me check. Build.sbt. Yeah, of course. Alright. Keys dot. Where's my dot? Oh, okay. Routes imports. Alright, import changes for the last time. And then in here, we just do retry. And that should restart our server. Done updating. Cool, cool. Everything looks good. This test file is red because it's using the incorrect build because we missed this line right here. But the app is now running, so everything's good. And we're going to go to port 9000 and check if we have any runtime errors, which I hope we don't. Come on. Alright, well, while that's happening, I'm just gonna go in here. Alright, cool, our app works. And let me try and remember how I did this. So, let's do this. Alright, so we're gonna start in the way that most people start. We're gonna start at the data model layer. So we're just gonna make a directory called models. Make directory app models, and we're gonna make make a file. And because this is just for an example purpose, I'm just gonna go with a post resource type of example. So think of it as you're creating a REST API for a blog database type of thing. So anyways, in our post.scala file, first we need to define the package that we're in, which is models. Oops. And package models, this part is always referring to the actual directory that you're in, so that's an easy way to remember it. And we're just going to create a case class here. So a case class is a special type of data structure in Scala. It's basically a static class, so it's very functional in that we never have to instantiate it. It'll just be treated as a object. But whenever you make a case class, you also need to make an object class to go with it, just so all the static functions or methods that's attached to it lives here. And this is a curly bracket, I believe. Yes, it is. All right. So here I'm gonna just define a couple of things. So with a post resource, you want a title, which is always going to be a string. You also want a description, which could also be a string. And then we could also have an ID. And the ID here is I'm gonna put any here for now. But the ID, we're actually gonna get the data type um, from our reactive Mongo library. So I'm gonna do that. Import reactive Mongo, and we're gonna get the Bison type, Bison object ID, and we can replace this any with the Bison object ID. But we want our database to generate the ID and not our app. So it's important to make sure it's an optional type. So basically, if you're coming in from an imperative language, it means that this ID is nullable. So it's possible that it's empty. Let's see. We also want to import. Where is it? play.api.libs.json, and we want the JSON type as well as the O format type. O format. And this is for reading and writing, so what's outputted to the client side is a JSON object instead of a Scala object, which actually can't be written to the client, as far as I know, at least. Okay, so implicit, there we go. Val formats, and this is the type O formats. Come on, O formats of the post, and it's gonna be JSON dot format post. All right, I think we also need. I'm gonna actually move this up. I think we also need reactive Mongo dot play dot JSON dot underscore. This is just so it could translate this binary JSON ID into actual JSON. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import Scala dot concurrent dot. Actually, I don't need this in this file. So that's our data model. Pretty straightforward. It's just going to be ID, title, and description. Yeah. We're going to make sure that title and description are going to be mandatory, so we're not going to add the option type to either of these. But of course, the ID is going to be optional.